Well, hello, a very warm welcome to our special edition, the Question Hour show from the Parliament House complex, the show where we bring you important unstarred questions asked by the members of the upper house. I'm Kriti Mishra, and joining me is my colleague Rajat Kain.
Well, thanks Kriti, and thanks to your viewers for watching this edition of Question Hour.
Well, Rajat, as you know, Question Hour is a very important parliamentary tool in India's parliamentary democracy because it gives an opportunity to the members of both houses of parliament, Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha, to seek answers from the government as ministers are collectively answerable or accountable. There are different types of questions: start questions, unstart questions and short notice questions. Start questions are those questions of which answers are sought orally on the floor of the House.
Whereas the other category is the unstarred questions, where the answers are deemed to be laid on the table of the House by the minister concerned or the department at the end of the proceedings.
Well, those are the written answers given by the government, and our show focuses on the unstarred questions and the written answers of the government. So, Rajat, let's begin the show. And the first question is from member Ami Yagnik, and this question pertains to the Ministry of Law and Justice. And the member has asked the government whether it is contemplating any plan to address people's grievances against slow-paced of delivery system of justice in the country, and also whether government is considering or allowing e-petitions and e-filing of cases as part of an effort to speed up judicial processes and to modernize judicial systems through digital technology. If so, the details thereof.
Well, Kriti, it's a very important question, and in his reply to the query, the Union Law Minister said the National Mission for Justice Delivery and Legal Reforms was set up in August 2011 with twin objectives of increasing access by reducing delays and errors in system and enhancing accountability through structural changes and by setting performance standard capacity. The mission has been pursuing a coordinated approach for phased liquidation of areas and pendency in judicial administration, which also involves better infrastructure for courts, including computerization, increase in strength of subordinate judiciary, policy and legislative measures in areas prone to excessive litigation, re-engineering of court procedures for quick disposal of the cases, and emphasis on human resource development. The major steps taken during last 5 years under various initiatives are as following. Now, first is improving infrastructure for judicial officers, district and subordinate court. As on date, this is pertaining to the query was raised in March of this year. So, as per the date when the reply was put before the table of the House, there were 7,453.10 crores have been released since the inception of centrally sponsored schemes for development of infrastructural facilities for judiciary in 1993 and 94. Now, out of this, rupees 4,008.80 crore, which is 53.79% of total amount released till date, have been released to state and union territories since April 2014. The number of court has increased from 15,818 as on 30th June 2014 to 19,694 as on 29th February 2020, and the number of residential units has increased from 10,211 as on 30th June 2014 to 17,432 as on 29th of February 2020 under the scheme. Now, in addition, 2,814 court halls and 1,843 residential units are under consideration.
In fact, Rajat, in the era of social distancing, member Ami Yagnik joined us through virtual platform, and this is what she had to say on government's response to her question. Listen in. And joining us in the Question Hour show through virtual platform, of course, is Rajya Sabha MP, Mrs. Ami Yagnik. Mrs. Yagnik, welcome to Rajya Sabha Television, and thank you so much for joining us in this era of social distancing through Skype, madam.
Thank you so much, Kriti, and hope everything is fine and everyone is well. Everyone should stay safe.
Absolutely, ma'am. We do hope that. And as you know, our show focuses on the important unstarred questions asked by the members of the upper house in the last session of Parliament. And ma'am, in the last session of Parliament, you raised a very pertinent question, which was about slow delivery of justice in India. A very important issue, ma'am. What is your take? How important is the issue, and how do you plan to raise it further?
The question was asked with a particular focus in mind that people go to the courts because they think that that is the last resort. They try every other way to get some kind of solutions for their legal tangles. And when they go to court, they want justice. Now, continuously, if you have to wait and endlessly wait for your matters to be taken up, then to be heard, then the judgment to come, and then there's always the possibility of some party going further in appeal. So the justice is always never at a stage of finality. So that is where the people get little tired, and then the backlog has practically increased in the last couple of decades. We do get the numbers of different high courts, subordinate courts, and the apex court, but that is not enough getting numbers, to have the number of judges increased, to have the courts in particular population wise, just as it is in developed countries. We copy developed countries in many issues. We take the names of this country and that country, but when it comes to certain ratios, we have fallen back and not lived up to that kind of an expectation which people expect from this particular system, the legal system. So I had asked why there is so much delay. Why can't we pep up this particular system, and why can't we find out what are the reasons? There have been several reports of the law commissions giving suggestions that this should be the way to go for reforms in both the legal system as well as the judicial system. We can take them apart because lawyers are a part of the thing, and the justice delivery system happens only when lawyers, litigants, and the judges come together. So the answer which has come is quite vague, that we have some 7,000 courtrooms and we are going to construct this. But we need to man this infrastructure with proper judges, proper number of judges, and so that the litigants can just go get some justice and feel happy about the whole thing. Ultimately, justice means that you get back some kind of a dignity. It's not winning or losing a case. You are going to that system to get something out of it, and that will give you some dignity to live with. So people are expecting a lot from the justice system, and the delays have been lot. The backlogs numbers have been given in which are into lakhs and sometimes even crores in the subordinate courts. So that was the question I had asked. But now, with the pandemic, I think the backlog has taken a very different kind of a color, also in a sense that people, litigants, don't know how to go to the court. See, access to the system has become difficult. Then, once you access the system, you get access to justice. So now online and then virtual courts, and the litigants don't know how to file their cases. So justice is going to be a very, very important issue. And I hope that the present government takes it up on a priority basis and look at the delays which are already there. And now with the pandemic, there is another kind of a delay and another kind of an issue that has come in the legal system.
Right, that's a very important point you're making, ma'am. But in one of the questions, the subsidiary questions that you asked, you also talked about e-filing, e-petitions. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, that is because of the computer technology that has crept in everywhere. We do have a lot of places where the systems of e-filing, computers, judgments on the on online accessible to everybody, and that makes everything easier. Whether you want to access a judgment of a Delhi High Court in Ahmedabad, you can do that. So that has been put into place and it's working very efficiently. Also, now with the softwares of all the journals, everything is there. So the courts, in its wisdom, thought that they should have e-filing. It would save a lot of paperwork. It would also save a lot of manual power, manpower, and it would be accessible to everybody. So e-petitions and e-filing have been introduced long back, but it should be uniform. One state has it and another doesn't have. You have it in the High Court, but if you want it of the subordinate court in a particular district, well, they are still having that decade-old typewriters and all that. So there should be uniformity. And if we can have uniformity in every other area and sphere, why should it not be? Why should it not be there? So e-filing has been a little helpful, but I think it should be at all places, and it should be accessible to litigants. Well, a time would come when litigants would say that we would like to file it ourselves rather than go through a lawyer. So that also should be. So I was asking, what is the system of e-filing and e-petitions adopted in all the states?
Ma'am, but again, the moot question remains as something that you also mentioned, that we have to create awareness about that. How do we make citizens aware of this right?
See, awareness has been the issue everywhere. You will see that the Constitution of India has given wonderful rights. These rights are given to the citizens of our country. You will hardly find another country which would have such a wonderful constitution, a constitution that is meant for the people. But the rights which are given to the people, for example, right to clean air, right to life, right to privacy, how many citizens know about this? So I personally have felt that there should be a continuous uh, exercise taken by the government, also by non-state actors, by civil society, by NGOs, that there should be spread of legal awareness. So unless and until if you don't spread, if people don't know that there's some kind of an e-filing or an e-petitioning, and that only the lawyer knows but the litigant doesn't know, or maybe the system knows, the registry knows and the lawyer doesn't know. So this needs to be focused on, and everyone should know about these rights. So citizens should know, just as you citizens should know कि चलो यहाँ this इस जगह पे ये चीज मिलती है. See, everyone knows where to go to get a recharge for their mobiles. Nobody has taught them. So it has come by spread of some kind of an awareness or advertisements. So this has to be there, and I think the best message of this kind of awareness can be spread by media. So a combination of media and message, I think, would help the citizens know their rights easily, and they'll be able to access it.
Lastly, ma'am, what is your suggestion to the government in this regard?
I would suggest to the Ministry of Law and the government that there have been a number of law commission reports that deal with these aspects individually and collectively, whether they are reforms in the civil procedure system, whether they are for the fast track courts, or whether they are for clearing the backlog, or to simplify the procedures, whether there is multiplicity of appeals or there. So why should the government not look at these law commission reports and just implement them, even to start with? That would be a good beginning to see that justice is delivered effectively to all those people who desire justice.
Absolutely, that's a very important point that you're making, ma'am. But you joined us through Skype in this era of social distancing from Gujarat, and I'm in Delhi. Thank you so much, Mrs. Yagnik, for speaking to Rajya Sabha television and giving us those important inputs.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Well, moving on to next question that was raised by member Vikas Mahatme before Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. The member asked all the types of activities that have been included in Green Goods Deed initiative, which is about simple, practical steps that students, teachers and citizens can perform in their day-to-day life towards protection of the environment.
Well, responding to this query, the government says the ministry has an ongoing environment education, awareness and training scheme with the objective to promote environmental awareness among all sections of society, especially school and college level students, and to mobilize participation of people for conservation of environment. The Green Good Deed, or GGDs, a social movement, is one of the components of the scheme, aims to inculcate green good habits and behavior among all sections of society to take green social responsibility. The Green Good Deeds initiative is about simple, practical steps that students, teachers, citizens can perform in their day-to-day lives and ensure protection of environment. And also, these include plantation drives, awareness on waste management, minimizing the use of single-use plastic, celebrating Green Diwali are some of the activities undertaken by school and college level students under the initiative of Green Good Deeds. And moving on to the next question, and this one is from member B. Lingaya Yadav, and this question pertains to the Ministry of Home Affairs. And Mr. Yadav has asked the government whether it has constituted any task force or committee on crime against women and children, particularly girl child, and if so, the details thereof in the last 5 years and the current year, and also the recommendations received, accepted, implemented, including the Justice J.S. Verma Committee report.
Well, in its response, the ministry said that no task force or committee has been specifically constituted for this purpose. Now, taking into account the recommendation of Justice Verma Committee, government has already made various amendments in criminal laws. Now, that include Indian Penal Code, that's IPC, CRPC, that's Code of Criminal Procedures, Indian Evidence Act, and Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act 2012, that's POCSO, relating to sexual harassment, assault, or criminal force to women with intent to disrobe, voyeurism, stalking, and rape. Further, pursuant to recommendations made in Justice Verma Committee report, domestic workers are included in the ambit of sexual harassment of women in workplace, Prevention, Prohibition and Redressal Act 2013. Well, next question was asked by member Hussain Dalwai from Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. The member sought whether government has given compensation to 282 Indians who died cleaning sewers and septic tank in accordance to Supreme Court order.
Responding to this query, the government says that Supreme Court of India, in its judgment dated 27th of March 2014, 583 of 2003 Safai Karamchari Andolan versus Union of India and others, directed the states and union territories to identify all the cases of sewage-related deaths that have occurred since 1993 and pay compensation of 10 lakh rupees each to the families of the persons who have died while cleaning the sewer or septic tank. The directions were well communicated to all the state and union territories for compliance. This issue is monitored by the ministry as well as the National Commission of Safai Karamcharis. As per the report furnished to the NCSK by the states, of the 920 identified cases of death that have occurred since 1993, compensation of 10 lakh has been paid in 558 cases and partial compensation has been paid in 161 cases. And now let's move on to the last question of this edition of the Question Hour show, and this question is by member S. Muthukurappan, and this question pertains to the Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas. And the member has asked the government whether it is a fact that government is considering to develop a national gas grid.
In its response, the ministry said the Petroleum and Natural Gas Regulatory Board is authority to grant authorization to entities to lay, build, operate or expand gas pipelines as per the Board Act 2006. To increase the availability of natural gas across the country, the government has envisaged developing national gas grid. At present, about 16,800 kilometers natural gas pipeline is operational and 14,700 kilometers of natural gas pipeline is under various stages of development. Now, an interactive discussion with various stakeholders from upstream, midstream and downstream segments have been held to inter alia access the requirement of infrastructure to connect the supply centers to demand areas for natural gas. Well, that's it. Thanks for watching this edition of Question Hour. We hope you are safe and doing good in the times of coronavirus pandemic.
Keep watching Rajya Sabha television.